getting like governance and structure is super important, isn't it? Is like, as a business, what are objectives? What's our current situation today? How do we operate financially as an organization? Do we want to take on debt? Do we want to use our capital? Do we want someone else to finance this for us? Are we in the business of just monetizing our assets and leasing them out? Do we really want to control and own this energy infrastructure? And then how do we go about making these decisions and ensuring that key roles and responsibilities are identified? Is it going to be ops that's going to lead most of this? Is it going to be sustainability? Is it going to be real estate? So having that alignment upfront and early is super important, and ensuring that we're all trying to achieve the same objectives versus getting to the end of a phase and sustainability team going, hang on a minute, why are we using generators instead of batteries and solar? Having been out of the loop and not understanding that resilience is a massive concern for the business. And so that alignment is super important.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Renewable Rides. And today, we're digging into a question that I feel like comes up in nearly every conversation, which is just how much work is this going to create for my team? If we're to deploy this system, what does this look like? We're not energy experts. Like, do we need to hire people? What are we expected to do? And so that's what we're going to tackle during today's call, both once the system is built, but also everything that leads up to getting the system up and energized. But before we do, Gareth, how things been?
Yeah, great. And I love the question, Dan. I definitely think that fear and concern is understandable, especially for people that haven't worked in the industry before. So excited to dig in. But yeah, super well. The family was away last week for spring break, and I took the opportunity over the weekend to do a solo trip. So I went and hiked around Smith Rock, which was the home of sport climbing in the US, interestingly, but a beautiful rock outcrop, volcanically formed, kind of in the middle of the desert. Got a nice hike around there, and then had an evening to myself by a campfire, camping out. And it's very rare, I think you're in the same boat, that you have even more than 5 minutes to sit down and read a book and actually just let the mind soak up everything that's going on. So I really enjoyed that, and especially in the craziness that we're surrounded with right now. It's just cool to reflect on how lucky we are, and nature has a great way of putting it all in perspective. So fantastic.
Certainly.
How about you?
Yeah, gratitude is a beautiful thing. It's been good. As you know, I just traveled out to visit family for the next week and a half here in Chicago. But last week actually had just another stark reminder of the fragility of our grid. Just there in my local area, San Diego Gas and Electric had a very large outage, over 100,000 people affected in North San Diego County and South Orange County for a couple hours. And it's just a big reminder that even the biggest of the big utilities are going to have issues. I actually don't know if they've nailed down the exact cause, but regardless of the cause, it impacted a lot of people, put a scare for a lot of the more vulnerable populations, and certainly any of the businesses that were looking to operate in those late afternoon, evening hours were impacted. So just another good reminder of why we do what we do.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it, Dan? I think I was just reading this morning about the LNG train that was like not physical choo-choo train, but that's what you call like a processing train for an LNG facility. One of them was hit by an Iranian strike, and they're actually projecting it's going to take them 3 to 5 years to fix this thing. And that's like 25% of their production. And so, there's a lot of talk right now about, if this ends in the next week or two, things will get back to normal. But they're saying the shock to the system is so significant already that it's going to take probably through the end of the year at best case scenario for things to start normalizing. And so, yeah, anyone who's got significant reliance on energy being an input to their business, which should be almost everyone, whether that's diesel, petrol, electricity, the more you can control your destiny, the better. And I think we're seeing firsthand the vulnerability of these centralized facilities. So yeah, super interesting times.
Absolutely. Well, let's dig in. So for those that want to deploy an on-site energy system or have an interest in doing so, the question often comes up, how much work is this actually going to be? Especially this comes from the champions that are trying to drive change within their organizations. And they're probably going to be faced with this question particularly from their operations and facility and production counterparts, to say, like, what is this actually going to take? And so let's maybe start from the back end of the process, when a system is fully built and commissioned and energized and electrons are flowing. Like, what am I expected to do if I'm a manufacturing firm, or I'm a commercial real estate asset owner that's built one of these systems?
Yeah, and we have a lot of empathy, don't we, Dan? Because teams are super stretched already. Everyone's got their day jobs. They're being asked to do more with less. And I think there's definitely an assumption that if I take on this initiative or this opportunity, I'm going to need an entire army of people to figure this out. And it's not the case. And I think, the assumption is generally wrong, especially once the asset is built. Once you've commissioned this thing, these technologies are very mature now and operate for decades with very minimal input if you've designed it and deployed it right in the first place. And we can talk about that as the discussion progresses. But it really all boils down to what commercial model you've gone with in the first place. And you can probably talk to us about what you're hearing in the market and the different commercial opportunities, and then how much that actually influences what your responsibilities are.
Certainly. So let's talk about, if you are building a behind the meter system to offset your own electricity consumption from the grid, there's two primary commercial models, and that would be one of CapEx, where you're going to own the system outright. It's going to be on your balance sheet. Whether you finance it or not is neither here nor there, but it's on your balance sheet. You own the system. And then the other option would be a power purchase agreement, where it's really just an operational expense. A third party owns the system, operates and maintains it. I'd say certainly in the PPA case, it's all hands off. I mean, really, the owner or the developer of the project, they take care of everything. That said, you can have as little interaction as we don't do anything. And the only interaction you have is if, say, an inverter goes out, that you have to let a maintenance person, have access to your roof to go replace the broken piece of equipment. But we would certainly recommend that you at least have some level of monitoring software and hardware in place to make sure that the system is performing as guaranteed, that the output guarantees are being met, because there's a lot of equipment sitting on your roof, and you should be gaining the most value from that. In the flip scenario, and I think that what I just described is pretty straightforward, but I think where a lot of people get hung up is, if I own this system, is that going to mean that my team is going to have to become energy experts, and they're going to have to know how to monitor and maintain a solar and battery system that's at my facility? And the short answer is, you could, if you really want to. Most companies aren't set up to do so. Is that you would have an operations and maintenance contract, and whether that's a complete third party from the group that built your system, or in most cases, and what we highly recommend is the engineer, procurement, construction firm that built the system is going to be the one that offers you an operations and maintenance contract. And that group is going to monitor that system 24/7. They're going to make annual site visits to inspect the system. Anytime that there's an equipment failure, they're going to send a crew out to go and fix that. And again, so very similar to the PPA scenario, you don't have to become an expert. You don't have to do much work.
Yeah.
There's a service for that. And in many ways, it's similar to an HVAC system. Your employees don't need to become HVAC experts. You've got folks that'll come out and service that when needed. So I think that's a great comparison.
Yeah, I really like it. At the end of the day, solar panels are very low maintenance. It's all about making sure that they're clean, that they're producing. Inverter checks are super important to ensure that the system is working properly. Battery storage systems these days are highly reliable, but they come with comprehensive service agreements. And so really we want to make sure that from a perspective of minimizing our level of required input, that we plan into projects workmanship warranties, performance guarantees, and ensuring that, to your point, that we're contracting a party to really oversee and maintain this, and ensuring that we're getting value for money, because we don't want to be spending thousands of dollars fixing something that's going to improve our performance by a couple $100. So that's the importance of really understanding, kind of from a monitoring and diagnostics perspective, um, when you should be deploying O&M contractors, how much you should be spending, but really someone else is doing the heavy lift. You're coordinating them, getting access to your property, and managing the contract, and that should be it.
Yeah. It's interesting. One of the things you touched on there, making sure they're clean. I think that's one thing that a lot of folks get hung up on is, oh, we're going to have to clean the panels on a regular basis. And it largely depends on where you're located, but anywhere that has relatively frequent rain, you really don't have to worry too much about cleaning the panels. It's only in, high dust, particulate matter areas that don't get much rain that you might consider it. But the cost of having a crew come out and clean your panels can often outweigh the increased output that you get from having clean panels. And so it's an important calculation to make. If it's going to cost $10,000 to have someone come out and clean your system, are you going to recoup $10,000 in the increased output in the coming time period? And so I think that's a worthwhile one. I think it's also worth noting kind of what an operations and maintenance contract typically costs. Typically, I'd say we see anywhere between, and I'm going to give a pretty broad range, but this is largely varies based on the system size, and how many systems you have under contract for operations and maintenance with a particular group. But I'd say anywhere between $6 and $16 per kilowatt per year. And so it ends up being a couple $1,000s, and that's for 24/7 monitoring, an annual site inspection. So it becomes pretty nominal in the overall scheme of the system itself. So
yeah.
Now that's once the system's up and running. Let's talk about how much effort there is in the front end of the work when you need to figure out, should we build, where should we build, what should we build, who should we build it with?
Yeah, and this is actually the real effort, isn't it, Dan? Because if you do your homework up front, you minimize all that effort on the back end. If you've made bad investment decisions and you've got a system that is underperforming and you've got equipment that isn't meeting its objectives, then yes, you can have more work on your hands, especially if you've contracted the wrong people from a construction and O&M perspective. But if you get that right, you really minimize the lifetime effort. So it takes definitely a little bit of effort up front. We typically see 3 to 6 months worth of time commitment, and our customers can be as hands-on as they want to, being in all of the details, understanding all of the minutiae of the finance models and technical design. But many people, it's a few key milestone decisions. And really the effort comes from understanding where are your facilities, how do you want to finance the systems to match your business objectives, and coordinating the internal stakeholders to ensure that you've got everyone on the same page to get an investment decision that's going to align with your needs.
And if the governance isn't set up properly at the start, you need clear ownership of roles, who's involved, who's accountable, because you are going to run into questions. And these are organizational decisions. And so that's really where, the process that we've built to step people through is helping them ensure that they're enrolling the right people on the front ends, getting their input early, even before we go and engage the suppliers in the market. Because what you don't want to do is go get half a dozen or more bids from suppliers and miss some key point that your VP of finance or chief accounting officer or whoever it might be puts a wrench into the mix and say everybody needs to go back and redo their proposals because you missed one key thing that's going to be a make or break for us. So I think doing that upfront work, even though it might feel like you're injecting a little time on the front end, can save months on the back end of evaluating, negotiating, and contracting these projects.
Yeah, getting that governance and structure is super important, isn't it? Is like, as a business, what are objectives? What's our current situation today? How do we operate financially as an organization? Do we want to take on debt? Do we want to use our capital? Do we want someone else to finance this for us? Are we in the business of just monetizing our assets and leasing them out? Do we really want to control and own this energy infrastructure? And then how do we go about making these decisions and ensuring that key roles and responsibilities are identified? Is it going to be ops that's going to lead most of this? Is it going to be sustainability? Is it going to be real estate? So having that alignment upfront and early is super important. and ensuring that we're all trying to achieve the same objectives versus getting to the end of a phase and sustainability team going, hang on a minute, why are we using generators instead of batteries and solar? Having been out of the loop and not understanding that resilience is a massive concern for the business. And so that alignment is super important.
One thing I don't think a lot of the enterprise teams that are running after this fully appreciate is the chaotic version of managing all this upfront development in on-site energy. It comes from fielding all the inbound pitches, so that like every company out there is getting their door knocked down, if not a daily basis, a weekly basis, by someone in the solar industry trying to sell them, cover your rooftop in solar. And then as they start to get those proposals, evaluating the different proposals, building the business cases that fit their own internal capital, request forms. And a lot of this work is happening, but it's kind of death by a thousand cuts versus doing so in a really structured, diligent approach. And I think that is what is exhausting a lot of people and making them kind of shy away from it or focus their limited time on the other things that are on their plate and letting this slip.
Yeah, it's the churn and starting from scratch every time, isn't it? And not having a repeatable workflow, process, system in place. And when you're getting all of those inbound inquiries, presenting something that sounds incredible to you, like what we hear from the market all the time is the biggest competitor to decision making is not knowing who to trust, and that leading to this indecision factor, isn't it? And so the real key, and this is why candidly we started VECKTA, was how do you create that central source of truth and the portfolio level visibility of where should I build, what should I build, why should I build it, what's the financial use case, having a very consistent, methodical process for analyzing these systems and designing them, having clear decision-making criteria that everyone can rally around, having terms, conditions, roles, responsibilities that everyone's signed up for. And then once you've done all that, you can go to market with confidence, telling the market what you want versus being sold to by someone else. And then that leads to you being in a position of control and you've tipped the scales, of versus being sold to, which is super powerful. And now you can actually drive the best outcomes for your business and allocate capital to the right opportunities in a very systematic way. And that is the hidden cost, isn't it? Is if you don't get that right, if you don't have that process, you don't have those workflows, you don't have the expertise supporting you, then you can just get into this world of constant churn and analysis paralysis, let's say.
Yeah. I would say I very much enjoy, working with any companies across the spectrum, but ones that particularly stand out for me are the ones that have experience and have the bumps and bruises and scars to show for it from navigating this on their own. And then they start working with us and realize that there's a better way. And it makes me think of a quote from one of our customers. And I won't share exactly who it is yet, because we'll probably end up having him here on the podcast. But the quote went something along the lines of, in every turn, I think I've said it, it's like every problem we've ever had with solar, you guys fixed it in one platform. So it's been very refreshing, and we wish we had found you guys 2 or 3 years ago, but happy we've got you now. And I think that really sticks out as far as building that machine. And it's no different than any other kind of process that gets built inside of an organization. In this case, it needs to be a bit more dynamic, because across different regions, across different projects, and over just the course of time, as the industry changes, you need to flex. But having that structured approach is ultimately going to reduce the time commitment from companies that are pursuing these. And by reducing the time commitment, you end up getting more projects done. You end up reaping the benefits of more projects. You don't get the projects kicked down the road, like we just talked about in our previous episode, of the downside of waiting. And I think oftentimes people wait not because they want to wait, it's because other priorities come up and they don't feel like they have the time to dedicate to it, when in reality, they don't have to dedicate as much time as they thought if they do it in the right way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the key minimum steps are made. If you're really time constrained, as long as you've got that endorsement from leadership up front and early, and you've aligned on the objectives, really your key milestones are, here's my list of sites, go away and analyze them for me, and we can go and do that. And then it's, here's the results. Are you aligned with these being the high quality, high priority opportunities, decision point? Then it's being able to approve them going into the market for quotes and agreeing on the commercial model that you want and the roles and responsibilities and all that we've standardized and formalized, and it's really select what aligns with your business objectives. And then it's looking at the advice of our analysis that comes back around which supplier is best for us and negotiating best and final offers and then contracting. And that can be super simple. We're talking about nominal hours in any given week or month. So this isn't a massive heavy lift. It's not a full-time role. It's someone who's got the ability to coordinate a process and get buy-in for kind of key internal decision-making.
Certainly. Well, I think a lot of people feel like the real work begins once the system's built and they got to become energy experts. I think the real work is certainly on the front end, and it doesn't have to be super cumbersome. Certainly, you have to pull some level of data to go get formalized quotes. You're going to have some people visit your site to help with some of the engineering studies up front. Of course, there's going to be construction crews that come and build the actual system, but it's typically not as full of effort as you may think. And even our customers that have arguably people that are 100% dedicated to deploying on-site energy systems still find a ton of value in leveraging a platform and a process and approach to make their lives easier and not just easier, but allow them to deploy more projects quicker within their organizations, and make sure everybody in the organization is feeling really good, really confident, and excited, not burdened by these projects.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, without technology, it would be a hugely painful process, wouldn't it? And that's the beauty of it, is how do we apply technology to a very fragmented, a very uncoordinated market to bring that structure and repeatability. So really exciting spot. It's not a massive lift. The returns on investment are significant. And really, this is a new part of roles that completely align with your objectives. If you're on the real estate side, it's maximizing the value of your property. If you're on ops, it's making sure it runs and is profitable and affordable. If you're on sustainability, it's reducing emissions. So these aren't completely adjacent or different focus areas for roles. This is completely aligned with fiduciary responsibility, operational resilience, and delivering incredible outcomes for the business in an enduring way. So it should be extremely additive and completely aligned with your objectives.
No doubt, Gareth. Great session. Anybody that has any questions about this, please reach out, and we'll dig into more of these commonly asked questions in future episodes. But thanks for the time, Gareth.
Nice. Cheers, Dan.
Cheers.
We receive a lot of questions from business leaders around the world wanting to learn more about the energy transition, what is possible, and where to start. So to help you stay informed and up to date on best practices, opportunities, risks, and success stories, we created an industry newsfeed at VECKTA.com/news with all our podcasts, blogs, and newsletter. Check it out and connect with Dan, myself, and the VECKTA team to learn more. Cheers and have a good one.